Have you ever felt like every time you get close to your goals and dreams in life, life start throwing roadblocks in your way? Well, let me tell you a story about Joseph in the Bible, how he went from the pit to the palace. Joseph came from a very dysfunctional family. His father Jacob had 2 wives, 2 concubines, and between his 4 women he had 13 children, and Joseph was the 12th child. And the Bible says that Joseph was his favorite child, and since he was his favorite, his dad made him a very fancy coat. And he also put him in a managerial position over his older brothers. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably about him. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were binding sheaf in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And indeed your sheaf stood all around and bowed down to my sheaf." And his brothers said to him, "Shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us?" So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers, and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream, and this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me." So he told it to his father and his brothers. And his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?" And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. "Look, I want you to dream, and I want you to dream big. But I want you to know you shouldn't tell everybody your dreams. Some people will hate you for it. They'll be thinking, who he think he is to be dreaming big? Actually, you should be dreaming big too, man. We all should have big dreams. There's enough success to go around for all of us." Back to the story. So Joseph was looking for his brothers in this place called Dothan. Now when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, "Look, this dreamer is coming. Come therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit. And we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. We shall see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard it and delivered him out of their hands, and said, "Let us not kill him." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hands, and bring him back to his father." So it came to pass, when Joseph had come to his brothers, that they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him, cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. You know it's bad when your siblings want to kill you. You know what they did next? The Bible said they sat down and ate. And one of his brothers, Judah, said, "What will we gain if we kill him? Let's sell him to the Ishmaelites." Then Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers put Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt. So there you have it. My boy Joseph had big dreams, but now he has been sold into slavery. The Lord was with Joseph, and he was a successful man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all he did to prosper in his hand. So Joseph found favor in his sight and served him. Then he made him overseer of his house, and all that he had he put under his authority. So it was, from the time that he had made him overseer of his house and all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was on all that he had in the house and in the field. Thus he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he did not know what he had except for the bread which he ate. You know what I see from this? God can bless you wherever you are. Joseph was a slave, but he was way more free than his brothers because the Lord was with him. God had his hand on everything. God can bless you even if you're in a disadvantaged, terrible position. But Joseph had some more trouble coming his way. The Bible said he was a very handsome man, and Potiphar's wife was trying to seduce him daily. But he refused and said to his master's wife, "Look, my master does not know what's with me in this house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There was no one greater in this house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her, to lie with her, or to be with her. But it happened about this time when Joseph went into the house to do his work, and none of the men of the house was inside, that she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand and fled and ran outside. And so it was, when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and fled outside, that she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, See, he has brought in to us a Hebrew to mock us. He came into me to lie with me, and I cried out with a loud voice. And it happened, when he heard that I lifted my voice and cried out, that he left his garment with me and fled and went outside. My man Joseph was trying to do the right thing. He didn't want to sin against God, and he didn't want to touch his master's wife, and she falsely accused him of trying to assault her. So it was, when his master heard the words which his wife spoke to him, saying, Your servant did to me after this manner, that his anger was aroused. Then Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were confined, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, it was his doing. The keeper of the prison did not look into anything under Joseph's authority, because the Lord was with him, and whatever he did, the Lord made it prosper. Have you ever felt like you were doing the right thing but nobody noticed it? Guess what? God sees your faithfulness, and once again we see God blessing Joseph in a disadvantaged, terrible position. For promotion cometh neither from the east nor from the west, nor from the south, but God is the judge. He put it down one and set it up another. Back to the story. And Pharaoh was angry with his two officers, the chief butler and the chief baker. So he put them in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, so they were in custody for a while. Then the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison, had a dream, both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. And Joseph came in to them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. So he asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him in the custody of his lord's house, saying, Why do you look so sad today? And they said to him, We each have had a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. So Joseph said to them, Do not interpretation belong to God? Tell them to me, please. So the cupbearer told Joseph his dream, and with God's help, Joseph interpreted his dream. And he told him, Within 3 days you'll be back at Pharaoh's house doing your job. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show kindness to me. Make mention of me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done nothing that they should put me into this dungeon. Now when the baker saw that Joseph gave a favorable interpretation, he told Joseph his dream. Check this out. So Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head from you and hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat your flesh from you. And after 3 days, everything went as Joseph said in his interpretation. Yet the chief butler did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Once again, my man Joseph finds himself in a disadvantaged, terrible position. Now it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt and all of his wise men. And Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who can interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief butler spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my faults this day. When Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me in custody in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker, we each had a dream in one night. He and I, each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his own dream. Now there was a young Hebrew man with us there, a servant of the captain of the guard. And we told him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to pass, just as he interpreted for us. So what happened? He restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him quickly out of the dungeon. And he shaved, changed his clothing, and came to Pharaoh. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream, and with God's help, Joseph interpreted his dream. And he told him, There will be 7 years of plenty in Egypt, and there will be 7 years of famine in Egypt. And the famine was going to be so bad that it was going to wipe out the memory of the 7 years of plenty. Now therefore, let Pharaoh select a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, to collect 1/5 of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 plentiful years. And let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the authority of Pharaoh, and let them keep the food in the cities. Then the food shall be as a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land may not perish during the famine. So the advice was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, "Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Inasmuch as God has shown you all of this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you." And Pharaoh said to Joseph, "See, I have set you over all the land of Egypt." This was not an overnight success. It took Joseph between 13 and 14 years to see his dreams come true. When he was 17, he had these big dreams. And he was 30 years old when he finally seen them come true. As I read this story, I noticed a few things. The very first thing I noticed is Joseph remained faithful to God even when things were hard. A lot of times when things get hard in our life and things don't make sense, a lot of people get mad at God. Some people will curse God, or some people will turn against God. But Joseph remained faithful. Think about it. If you turn on God or you get mad at God, who do you have to run to? He's the only one who cares about you, and he's the only one who has all the answers to your life. Don't get mad at God. Stay faithful. Another thing I noticed is that Joseph never gave up on himself. He stayed consistently diligent in using his skills. Everywhere he went, he used his skills and talents, and he even developed more skills. And he was always willing to help people. He helped Potiphar, he helped the prisoner guard, he helped the cupbearer, the baker, he helped Pharaoh, and ultimately he ended up helping to save the land of Egypt. Even though he was in a disadvantaged, terrible position, Joseph was always blessed because God was with him. Have you ever heard the song, "He's an on-time God"? Yes, he is. He may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. God had his hand on everything in Joseph's life, and it's the same with you. I want y'all to put your full trust in God because God knows exactly what he's doing. Look, I want to encourage you guys to read this story for yourselves. You can find this story in the book of Genesis, between Genesis chapter 37 all the way up to Genesis chapter 50. I love this story. It's a great story, and the best part of this story to me is during the 7 years of famine, Joseph's brothers had to come to him, bow down to him, and ask him for help. And you know what I like? Joseph gave him a hard time a little bit, but he ultimately forgave them, and he took care of them. And he was reunited with his father, and he took care of his father and everything. One time his brothers came to him, and they thought he was going to get revenge. And I like what Joseph said to them. He said, "No, y'all meant it for evil, but God meant it for my good, to save this whole land." And that's what I want to tell you, my brothers and sisters. Whatever happened to you, if you love God and if you're called according to his purpose, he'll make all things work together for your good. Hey y'all, thanks for checking out this video. My name is Jamal, and I'm strong and courageous, and I'm just here to inspire my people. God bless. Hey, if you want to be successful, I want you to check out this video right here. In this video, I'll be sharing with you some biblical principles on success.